Hi everyone, welcome back to the Etymon Project. Today we're going to be going over another problem from NACLO, and it's going to be from 2023 round Invitational, so it'll be a little bit harder than the ones I've previously done, but I think it's still definitely doable, not like crazy or anything, and yeah, it's called a Saharan Sensation, so let's just get started. Okay, so this is a script type of problem where they give you some words in an unfamiliar script. And in this case, it's Meroitic script, I think is how you would say it. And they give you 12 words in the Meroitic script, these 12 over here. And then they give you the Romanized versions over here in scrambled order. And we basically just have to match them up. And with these, it can definitely be hard because especially like hard to start when there's just like this completely unfamiliar symbols. But I would say generally you can find some sort of either a letter matchup or syllable matchup, some kind of tokens that you can find that will relate to each other. So there's definitely ways you can spot patterns in these. For example, length is definitely going to be pretty consistent. Like if there's a longer word in the Meroitic script, it'll probably correspond with a longer word in the Romanized script. You also want to look for like repeated symbols. Like for example, I'm noticing that a lot of the words kind of end in this S2 symbol, so I'm going to kind of highlight that. I'm going to do it in highlighter. So like this word, and then this word. And I'm also noticing a lot of them end in this like backwards squiggly 3 sort of thing, so I'm also going to mark that. I think that's all of them. And then lastly, I'm noticing that a lot of the words start with this kind of slash and I don't know what you call that, like a T sort of thing, like the one that I'm highlighting here. A lot of words start with it, and then there's also one over here that ends with it. So I'm thinking that's kind of an interesting place to start. If I'm thinking about the letters that are appearing at the end, though, it's kind of hard to see how this could be because, like, there's 4 words that end in yellow, so we have, like, 4 S2. And then we have 3 of the backwards sort of 3s. And if we look at the endings of the words over here, we can see that there's not very much variation. There's like a lot of A's, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's like 7 A's. And then for E's, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So maybe E could be S2, but none of the really long ones end in E, so that wouldn't really make sense either. So I think we can kind of conclude that it's not going to be that S2 is matching up with an A or an E, like at the end of the words. But we can still think about the possibility that there are like inherent vowels at the end of consonants. So like you could just write a T and then it would be assumed to be like an A or an E, and that would kind of make it so the A wouldn't be written in the script. So that could be a possibility. We can think about the different second to last letters, like there's a T here, so how many T's are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this is where it helps to kind of have some like knowledge of other languages, because it just gives you more background on like what kinds of different rules languages can have, like what kind of forms they can have. Like I know some languages do have inherent vowels, like Arabic for example. So that's just helpful as like a possibility in my mind. So anyways, if we think about, there's like, I guess 4 T's, or no, sorry, 6 T's. So we can write that down. So that can't be any of the ones that we have. There's also, let's see how many M's there are. I think there might just be 1. So that's not one of them, the one right here. So that's not one of them. And then for the other letters, there's 1 S right here. And then, so that's not one of them. And then there's an R, 2 R's. Okay, so it seems like nothing's really lining up. Like it feels like there should be 4 of the same letter ending, because we have like this, and then another letter that's like 3 ending. This. So we kind of have to think outside of the box a little bit and like call on more knowledge of other languages. Again, it can be helpful to like have this and just knowledge of it. And especially because this is a language that's like found in the Middle Eastern area, like Egypt, I guess, they speak Arabic. It came across my mind that like the language could be written right to left, and like since Arabic is written right to left, that could make sense. Like there could be some sort of relation there. If it's right to left, then these S2 letters or pairings and this like backwards 3 pairings, they could be at the start of the word, and that might work better if we have like pairs of 3 and 4. So for example, let's count like the A's. So we have like 1, 2, 3, 4 A's. So that definitely matches up with our S2. So we can try to think about like if that matches up with the length too. And as C, we have one very long one, and then we have like 2 kind of middle-sized ones, and then 1 short one. And that actually matches up very well because we have like 1 very long one right here, so that could definitely be apiremaka. And then we have like 2 middle-sized ones right here, and then the short one right here. So I'm definitely thinking like this S2 symbol could be our starting A vowel. And then for this backwards symbol, we have 3 of them. And if we're looking at the options, there's no other set of 3 other than P. There's like a P here, a P here, and a P here. So I'm thinking this is probably our P letter. And we can check the length again just to make sure. And it seems like we have like 3 longish ones. And these do look a little short. But if this is apiremaka, like we said, like if it's like apiremaka, something like this. Okay, sorry, that was like completely wrong spacing, but as you can see, the P like lines up right here. So that's a good sign that our answer is right, and it could just be that like these words look short, but they're actually longer. So I'm gonna say that's a pretty good finding for now. And now we can kind of use like the fact that we know this top word is probably apiremaka because it seems to line up pretty well, and try to figure out some of the other letters here. So we can write in like an A here, a P here, and then we come to this S letter. And this S letter is pretty frequent. I think there's like a lot of others. I'm gonna try to mark them just so you can see them. Like there's 2 in this word. And then there's 1 here, there's 1 here. And yeah, it's definitely a possibility that like the 2 and S could be like separate letters and it just happens to be together a lot. But I thought it was frequent enough that it like has to be kind of its own thing. Like there's no just 2 alone. So I'm assuming it's like S2 is like its own sort of thing. But anyways, if we're thinking about what letter this S could be, I'm seeing that there's like 2 E's here, right where the like S's would be. There's like a letter, a different letter, and then the same letter. So I think it makes sense if this was like our E, D, E. And then finally we have 2 letters at the end, this like curved thing, and then this like backwards 3 again. We do have 4 letters at the end, but I think this may just be an inherent vowel like I was talking about earlier, because there's no way to kind of make it fit otherwise. So maybe this is like an M and then it has an inherent A, and then this is a K and it has an inherent A as well. I think that's honestly the best explanation for this, and we can check the others to see if it also lines up using like these letters that we've now learned. What should we do next? I guess we have a lot of letters here. We have like this P and then this E. So if we have a P and an E, that can only be our D, pelamosa. So we can try to write in things here. This letter, I'm assuming, is just going to correspond with the next letter, an L. And it could have an inherent vowel. I think that makes sense, actually, because this next letter we know is M. So this is like an LA, and this is like an MO, I guess. So if we're thinking about whether the O is inherent as well, I don't think it actually is, because there's 2 letters at the end for 3 letters. So that means that O can have its own letter, and then this S is probably with an inherent A. So I think that makes sense for pelamosa. Oh, I can like write these in as well as we go. That would probably be helpful. Okay, so now we can kind of look at the other P words because we have some of the other letters in those now. So for example, we have a P here, and then we know this is L, or we actually know it's LA. If we know it's LA, then it kind of has to be I, Palasana, because that's the only one that has a P and an L. So, oh, we also have this S that we know. So we kind of know this whole word already, except for the last letter, which just must be N. And again, it probably has the inherent A at the end. So that makes sense and that lines up. So we can write in an I here. And finally, our last P word, it kind of just has to be the last P word available. So Pakara. So we have our P and an inherent A, I guess, with it. Maybe I should explain that. I guess we have, like here we have this P and then it's followed by vowels. So I'm assuming one of the rules for this language is that like without a vowel, it's just going to be PA because it's like that here. But if you put a vowel after it, it's going to be like just that vowel instead of the A. So I hope that made sense. But anyways, we have a P here and then this must be a Q and this must be R, and that fits because all of these vowels are A's, so they're all inherent. So we can write a J for 12. Okay, we've done all the P words. I guess we can move back to the A words because there's only 4 more and we know a lot more letters now. So let's say we go to number 2. I guess we have this P here that we didn't mark before. And this is obviously an A. So, oh, we also know the slash letter is an O. We have this O down here that we know. So we know that this slanted line up here is going to be an O. And then we can figure out the word from here. It has to be this word C right here. So apote. We highlighted this last letter or group as like a common occurrence. And I'm thinking it's going to be actually just kind of a group because even though we do have like this line by itself, we know that that's not an O because the last letter here is a TE. So I think it's reasonable to assume that this group is kind of like a TE. Maybe like think about like them combined, it makes a TE. I think that makes more sense and is more accurate. And I guess the reason you know it has to be like one group is because this like squiggly line, like just this one, doesn't appear anywhere else in the problem like by itself. So you can kind of assume it has to be like together. And there's a lot of like these TE groupings. So it makes sense that like it would be kind of its own letter, I guess. This was apote, and so we can write C. And then now that we know that this is like our TE, we can write that in for all the others. And then I think it's kind of clear that this long one with starting with TE must be Tewiseti, so we can write it in. This next word, or this next letter should be a W because it's not going to be inherent. And then we have this 4 symbol that is kind of connected to it. And I'm seeing one at the end too, which makes me think it could be an I because we have an I as like our 4th letter here, and then we have an I as our 8th letter. And that kind of lines up. So I'm going to write in an I there. Let me just rewrite that. Okay, now we have an SETI. So we have kind of this like long letter here. This is kind of hard to figure out because it seems like it's kind of 3 letters in one, but I'm seeing it other places like down here. That might be it, but the fact that it occurs twice is kind of like, oh, it must be some sort of group. So I'm thinking this is like an SE group. Let me just write it in. Sort of like the TE group, where like S itself has a different letter, like we found it down here, it's like this sort of backwards 3, but the SE has its own special group to it. And then finally we have this T that we already found, I think somewhere, or okay, maybe not, we don't have it yet, but I think we know it's a T because the last consonant is a T, so this must be just like the normal T, like not the TE group, if that makes sense. And then this last one is an I, so that must be K. Okay, now let's go back to the A words. So we have this A down here and this A down here. And I think it's kind of, you can figure out which one is which. We kind of have anata and ata. And, oh, I forgot we already figured out this T. So it's going to be very clear. We have like a T here. So this down here must be ata with like the inherent A after the T. So this must be F. And then the number 7 should be A, and then this is just an N. Oh, I think we already had that as well. Yeah, we had it down here. So that all adds up. Okay, the next easiest one I see is this one down here that's just missing 1 letter. Oh, I think we already have it as well. We have like this backwards 3 is S, so we can just write that in. And then there's an inherent A, which I guess I shouldn't really have written, but yeah, that matches up with sate right here. So we can write an H. Okay, for the last three, oh, I've not been crossing them off. I might go and do that. Okay, so we have three left, and two of them are shorter, and then one of them's longer. We could honestly just figure out which is which because we have, like, some information about each of them. Like, we have this ending TE for one of them, so that's probably going to be karite. So we can just write an L. And then we have this, like, ending E over here from the green S that we found before. And only one of these words ends in an E, so this is probably kore, so we can write in an E for that. And then finally, this must be sema, which we can quickly double check just to make sure we didn't mess up along the way. And we've already found this, like, SE group, like, right here. So we can just write in SE. And then I think we've seen this M before. Oh yeah, like right up here. So yeah, and then inherit A. So sema, just B. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think that's, oh, okay. There's like a separate section down here. I might make this 2 parts actually. And the second part will be a lot shorter, but yeah, I feel like this video has been long enough. So see you in the next part.